I'll be right there. Thank you for music that sums up that this teaching believes in us, that there is something greater than our story, than our past, than what other people think is possible, that there is something within each and every one of us that is amazing. Thank you so much for that. I'm so grateful. And now, are you ready?
Yes!
Are you ready to be free?
Yes!
Are you ready to have plenty of money to do whatever you want to do?
Yes!
Are you ready to go beyond all of the barriers that other people have laid on themselves and live the life of your dreams?
Yes!
Then take a deep breath, and we'll do our treatment for freedom together aloud. I speak my word for myself, my center, and all its members and friends. I know love as the only reality. I am created out of love. Love is what I am. I know this love as absolute freedom in every area of my life, the life of my center, and all who call it home. I know our center's mortgages are paid in full, and I claim for all of us financial freedom with all debts paid and cleared. I release any sense of struggle or wrongdoing. I live in an abundant universe where there is more than enough for all. We experience freedom in every moment by always having more than enough money, vibrant health, and loving relationships. We are who we have come here to be. With hearts open wide, we see the world through the eyes of love. We are blessed, we are rich, and we are free. And so it is. And we do this with our points of power. I always pay attention. I always tell the truth and tell it quickly. I always ask for what I want when I want it. I always take total responsibility for my experience. And I always keep my agreements. So it is. We hold ourselves to a higher standard here, you might have noticed, than people normally out in the world. People normally out in the world think it's okay if it's just a little white lie, if it's just a little bit compromising their integrity, if they want to hold on to resentments instead of speak the truth, instead of ask for what they want, they just want to blame other people. We don't do that here. We say there is something within us that is special. There is something within us that is God itself, and that calls us to a higher level. We don't get to have a savior here, not that I want one, but we don't have one because we do not need saving. We do not need to be saved. We are not helpless. We are not hopeless. We are not caught up in a world where this is a pop quiz, and if you do well, you get to spend the eternity in heaven. And if you fail, then you spend eternity in hell. We're not looking for an outside power to either bless us or curse us or save us. And because of that, it requires that we step up. It requires that we hold ourselves to a higher standard, that we create the lives that we want to live, that if we want something in our world, we bring it. We don't wait for someone else to come along and then pick up their breadcrumbs. We bring it in our own life. And you may have noticed that that's, I don't want to say it's not the easiest life, because in the long run, I guarantee you it is. It's a lot easier to live this way than it is to live angry and resentful and sick and poor. But in the moment, sometimes, it asks a little bit more of us than we may see those around us being asked. It asks us to stop, to pay attention, to take note of what's happening in our lives, to change it if we don't like it, and to keep ourselves in a vibration, in a state to where we are attracting and creating the life that we want to live. And so at Christmas time, when a lot of people are bringing in this idea that says, is my microphone making a funny noise?
Yes. No. Yes.
Is that thing we've been trying to find for weeks?
That's it.
Yes.
What is that? I'm going to go to this one. Shut me down, David. As if anything can shut me down. So when a lot of people are saying that there is this being that was the one and only, that God had only one favorite, and out of the billions and billions of people that are on planet Earth now or have ever been, that there is some special one being that God chose to come to Earth to do whatever it is he did, and that we all will now pray to that one being, worship that one being, and hope that it intervenes on our behalf. We don't do that. We look inside of ourselves, and what we find is what we get. We look inside of ourselves to find the presence of God. How can you say that, Barbara? You guys are just so egotistical. Because if God is all that there is, then the only God we will ever find is in us. I mean, just take a moment with that one. The only God that is the one that looks back at you in the mirror. The only God that is within. And so we do all of this dance and we create all of these outside stimulation. Oh, if I get that, if I do that, if I light 6 candles and do a dance and it's the full moon and burn this kind of incense, then I'll get that. No, it's all inside of us. It's all inside of us. And so during this time of year in particular, I feel a little bit different than what most of people, or at least most of the people in the United States are feeling. In that, we look inside of ourselves to find the Christ. Now, we're not looking for Jesus. We are not looking for baby Jesus in a manger. As if that metaphor ever even happened. You know, the reason Christmas is in December is because of the solstice. That if that story was true, when all of the people were called to be taxed and counted, that it would have happened in August. And so if Jesus was born during the paradigm of that story, Jesus would have been born in August, which makes perfect sense for the Leos in the room. So we're not looking for Jesus. What we are looking for is the Christ. And there is a big difference. There was not a Joseph Christ and a Mary Christ and brothers Christ, and evidently Jesus came from a big family. But he turned into the Christ. The same way that Siddhartha turned into the Buddha. Jesus turned into the Christ. He actually didn't turn into it because that brings forth a sense of change, that he went from some lower level of consciousness to a higher level of consciousness. What he did is he opened up to who he had come here to be. That's why I love that sentence in the Treatment for Freedom so much. We are who we have come here to be. We came here as powerful beings of light and love. We came here to transform the planet. And when we are who we have come here to be, we experience that shift in energy called the Christ. Some people call it enlightenment. That's our job. Our job is not to pray to an outside God for things that we wish would be intervened on our behalf as if we were powerless, helpless beings on planet Earth. Our job is to be the Christ. Our job is to create the life that we want to live for ourselves and for everybody else. Our job is to walk on water. If you want to practice, come on January 1st and walk on fire. Our job is to heal the sick. Our job is to raise the dead. Our job is to transform life. Our job is to reach out and grab a coin if we need to pay our taxes because we have plenty of money to do whatever it is we choose to do. That's our job, to allow that state of consciousness that we always are to come forth. And I'll give you that sometimes it's not the easiest thing in the world. sometimes we have issues. Sometimes we have stories. Sometimes we have things that happen to us. But that is when the work comes in, where it's our job to find the Christ. Ernest, because I've got this book memorized now, it wasn't enough that I read it, but I edited it over and over and over again. Ernest says in page 224 of the original Sounds of textbook in lesson 5, which is the perfect whole under the subtitle of the Christ. He says that what Jesus did was to objectify, to bring forth into his objective awareness a complete understanding and experience of his oneness. And that allowed him to become the Christ. So when we can get that there is only one, we find the Christ. When we can look at a problem and say, no, God is in the midst of this, we find the Christ. When we can look at someone not as someone who is sick, but someone who is healthy and whole, we find the Christ. When we can look at circumstances and know that there is nothing outside of us, there is only God within, we find the Christ. And that is our job. That is our job as spiritual beings on planet Earth. We do not get to indulge in blaming, in feeling like a victim, in dabbling in darkness and duality and holding on to anger and resentments. We don't get to do that anymore. What we get to do is find the Christ. And it doesn't matter what the circumstances are, our job is to find the Christ. That's our only job. And we find it inside of us. And people go, oh, Barbara, you don't know the troubles I've had. You're asking too much of me. I do, because everybody has the same troubles. So here we have a situation that's not working out like we thought it would be. I could imagine that Gandhi had that same question. He was living in London, he had it together, he was an attorney, he had a wife and children. And he bought himself a train ticket through the post. And because he had means, he bought a first-class ticket. And he got on the train, dressed nicely, had his bags. He was used to living a very nice life until the porter came, the train conductor person, came and saw that he was a man of dark skin in the part of the train that was only for people with light skin. And so they said he had to move back to the third class section. And he said, no, I have a ticket. I bought it in the post in London. And they picked him up and they threw him off the train. Now, I would imagine at that moment he was having a little trouble finding the Christ. And then he got on a stagecoach. And by then he was cranky. And when the next person on the stagecoach was European, and they asked him to get off, he resisted, and they beat him. Sometimes it's harder than others to find the Christ. Probably when he spent 7 years in prison, it was difficult to find the Christ. But at some point, you've got to find it. You've got to be who you have come here to be and change the world. And so he did. He taught everybody how to reclaim their country with non-violence. What a concept. They would line up and the British soldiers would just club them and they would fall and people would carry them away and help them. And they wouldn't back down. He said there is something inside of you that is greater than any amount of violence and force. There is a truth within you that can have what you want without having to go to war for it. And so he reclaimed that country. He taught the world a different way. There's a post on Facebook right now from the Dalai Lama where someone asked the Dalai Lama why he didn't go to war with China. I mean, other than the ridiculous amount of size difference. Why didn't he go to war? Why didn't he take Tibet to war with China when China invaded his country? And he said, war is obsolete. And then he looked around and realized that people didn't know what he was talking about. And he said the heart never agrees to war. The head will convince itself that it can go to war. And then you have divided yourself between your head and your heart. And then the war is within you. There comes a time when you have to realize you're greater than war. There comes a time when you have to realize you're greater than your problems. There comes a time when you have to realize that it doesn't matter what is being done to you, it will not change who you have come here to be. And so you have to be that. You have to find the Christ. And if you're having trouble finding the Christ, look harder. Don't give up. One of the things I love about Science of Mind is it says that everybody is a part of everything. That there's only one thing going on. It's God, it's spirit, it's love, it's light, it's power, it's creation, and that is what you are, and you can never stop being who you are. You will do amazing things. There is a power and a presence within you that will lift you over every obstacle, answer every question. It's the solution to every problem, and it will carry you if you will give it that ability to lift you up in your life. And the way that you do that is you don't give up. Sometimes I think the bigger our problems, the bigger is the solution that we're going to get. It's like, yeah, we were up to $250,000 repair on this creek bank. Yeah, we're going to have a fantastic repair on this creek bank. We're going to have clean water all the way down to the French Broad because of our experience on this creek bank. I know that it is so. I don't need to know how to do it. All I need to do is find the Christ. And when I look deeply inside of myself, and I get this sense of this being that is amazing, that is light, that is love, that is so big, that always knows that all is well. When I can connect with that, then I don't have to worry about the details. If I need something, I can reach my hand out and grab it. If someone is sick, I can spit on their eyeballs and they can see again. Isn't that fantastic? That's inside of us. Because whatever Jesus was not the only one. I love what Meister Eckhart said. The eternal is forever begatting the only begotten, and he is begatting him in you and in me right now. Yeah. Yes. One of us. Well, at some level, there's just one of us. There's not just one that's special, that's the only one. There is all of us, and we are all the same. So don't go looking for Jesus to save you. You don't need to be saved. What we do need is to look deeply within ourselves, to find the God that is always there. That power and presence and love and light that is greater than any experience on this physical plane. We can do anything, as long as we are willing to find the Christ. And so it is.